Tonight is a really interesting kind of night. I mean, the artists that we're going to cover tonight really do stretch what black music is. They stretch what improvisational music is. And then you combine that with certainly the literary aspect of it. And it's going to be a fun night and a really interesting night for us. So I'm going to let Adam actually start by talking about a little bit about this first piece that he's going to read, and I'll tell you a little bit about the music that's going to accompany this piece, and then we'll get into it.
So this next piece, it's called Rhythm Travel. It's by Amiri Baraka. It's a short story written in 1996. It's a story in dialogue form between this rhythm traveler, and rhythm travel is just time travel via rhythm, right? So you'll see how this story really takes Ellison's idea of inhabiting a song, right, and time traveling through song and runs with it. And so, yeah, you'll notice the dialogue between the two characters, and just the way in which the song is, or the story is getting us to think about the connection between rhythm and time and nonlinear time, right? That's a theme that you'll keep seeing again and again in the pieces I'll be reading.
And the music that's going to accompany this piece is a group actually that I wasn't that familiar with. I came across this group called the Ancient Infinity Orchestra. And they're actually a band, from the here and now. And this is from a record that they released actually fairly recently. And this group is a 14-piece group, and they're actually based out of England, out of Leeds, England. It's led by the double bassist named Ozzy Mosey. And this community that this group lives in is this very deep, not just jazz and improvisation-based music community, but sort of a wider cultural collection of artists, visual artists, literary artists, etc. And the material summons that of Pharoah Sanders in the 1960s and 70s. It has the sort of soulful sounds and definitely sounds that are pushing the envelope for what black music is that we hear in Alice Coltrane and sort of later stages of John Coltrane. And this particular song, River of Light, really does tap into this idea of spiritual jazz in many ways. And the fact that this is put together by, this community of people who sort of, make music together, make art together, commune together on a regular basis, to me was very inspiring. The music is also really connected to this idea of meditation and philosophy and nature and musical inspiration. A lot of what comes up in music that is connected to Afrofuturism is this idea of circles, right? And this idea of infinite loops of time, of rhythm, of music, of art that just sort of keeps cycling back around, being inspired by the past and the present, and then thinking about what the future is and sort of moving forward. So the music that you're going to hear is by Ancient Infinity Orchestra, and this is River of Light. 2, 3, and...
boy always do that. You knock, somebody say come in. You open the door, look around, call out, nobody there. You think, but then at once, music comes on. If you're watching, there's a bluish shaking that flickers. Maybe Mysterioso will surround you. The music is wavering like light. The room seems to shift, to step. Then you recognize what you hear. Your man. Oh, brother, you're at it again. You in here, ain't you? A laugh. This dude. Yeah, I'm in here. You hear me, you feel me, here I am. He appears, laughing and pointing at you. Hey man, I'm still developing this. What do you call this? Anyscape. The first one, molecular anyscape, the re-solocator. That was the improvement. T disappear, nicknames, perfect, American citizen, Ellisonic, migration. I got a name for each step. And now, I rolled my eyes as he materialized before me, dissing the diss report on appearance. This is next to last. I can disappear, diss visibility, be unseen. But now, I can be around anyway, perceived, felt, heard. I can be the music. How they gonna steal it if it's me? But now I got something heavier. This dude is out. It ain't no jive. He had done those things, and he never swore me to secrecy either. He just fixed it so I couldn't remember nothing, except when I came back. Further out, the cloth refiner. He said he needed to make the cloth fade more so that he could get in and out of the bank without any hysteria. I figured it took a few $100,000 to get where he was technically. How come they don't detect the money splitting? Well, I ain't been able to stabilize the cloth thing. Sometimes people see the money floating and go off. But I still get away. How come they don't say nothing? Well, it's hard to explain, I guess. Floating money. They're studying it. Oh. A few weeks more, I'll rob the Mammy Gemmas clean. Wow. I thought of a stream of exclamations, but I could only analyze it while hearing it. I needed to reflect, but your boy wouldn't allow it. But now, B, dig this. I pushed the Anyscape into rhythm, spectroscopic transformation. And then I got it tuned to combine the any-wareness and the reappearance as music. What? You know, this is some deep technical stuff. No, it ain't. It's science. I can teach people how to make and use these. Now I added rhythm travel. You can disappear and reappear wherever and whenever the music is played. So if you become black, brown, and beige, you can reappear anywhere and anytime that plays. Go anywhere? Yeah, like if I go to take this hammer, I can appear wherever that is. Was, will be sung. Yeah, but be that song and you'll be on a plantation. I know, he was grinning. I went to one. He was staring me down, winking without his eye. I seen some brothers and sisters digging a well. They were singing this and I began to echo. A big, hollow echo. A sort of blue shattering echo. The Bloods got to smiling because it made them feel good. And that's the way they heard it anyway. But the overseers, and plantation masters winced at that. They turned their heads sharply back and forth, looking behind them at the slaves. Man, the stuff I'd seen. You mean you've been rhythm traveling already? Yeah, I turned into some Sun Ra and hung out inside gravity. So this next poem I'm going to read, it's actually by Sun Ra, who many people might not know this, but he wrote and published his own poetry books. Some of them he included in his albums as spoken word, but others he actually published as pamphlets. And this poem is from 1980, though there are versions of it that exist all the way back to 1973, and he just kept coming back to this idea. It's called Some Tomorrow, and the speaker of the poem is trying to imagine a tomorrow that isn't defined by or burdened by the past.
And of course, fittingly enough, the music we're going to play for this particular piece is a Sun Ra composition entitled Blues at Midnight. And Sun Ra, probably the musical incarnation of Afrofuturism in many ways, from the visual aesthetic to the way that he approached harmony and melody and rhythm, to the way that he thought about his own existence. But this particular song we're going to play is from an album entitled Jazz and Silhouette, which is from a studio album released in the late 50s by Sun Ra and his orchestra. And Sun Ra was a keyboardist and composer. And this piece was recorded in Chicago and is sort of after the fact, in sort of the mid to late 60s, it gained this very iconic cover that it has with these sort of half-naked women who are like teleporting themselves over one of the moons of Saturn. And if you ever read anything that Sun Ra wrote or listen to Sun Ra speak, that statement that I just made will make a lot of sense to you. And if it doesn't, go explore some Sun Ra for sure. The Penguin Guide to Jazz suggests that this is one of the core essential elements of this Black American music that we call jazz, stating that this marvelous record one day will be recognized as one of the most important jazz albums since the Great War. This record is a masterpiece in many, many ways, and one of the things it does is it sort of showcases this approach that Sun Ra has to music, which very much like Adam said in setting up the piece, the literary part of the piece is this existence that looks at the way Black American music approaches rhythm and melody and harmony in the past, and as it moves itself through his present in the 1950s and 60s, and then what the music would move forward toward. This is a very interesting album in general. It has a lot of depth to it, a lot of character to it, and a lot of it covers a lot of the Black American musical spectrum in one piece of music. So the piece is Blues at Midnight by the great Sun Ra. 1, 2, 3.
Not the same yesterday's tomorrow that now they call today. Some other tomorrow's tomorrow, living cosmo design of omni-everness, beyond the limit of that which only always was. Some tomorrow that we know we own. Some tomorrow that is on its way to other mountains, even mountains beyond the mountains of this one earth. Mountains of other planes, other dimensions and planets. Some tomorrow, not the same yesterday's tomorrow, no. Not the same tomorrow of the past. The recurring oath, sword, cycle, curse. Not that same false tomorrow that is still the past disguised under other names. No. Not that tomorrow, but some better tomorrow that never came before. A mystic magic gift of all gifts. A rare myth, fiction, outer thought, intuition, feel. adventure.
Casey Newton, alto saxophone and flute. Stephen Lugener, bass clarinet and soprano sax. The Dizon Claiborne on the drums. On the bottom end, holding it down, Mr. Gary Brown. On the piano for you, Tammy L. Hall. And of course, our special guest, Dr. Adam Ahmed.
So this next piece I'm going to read is a quote. It's from this Caribbean critical theorist and writer, Sylvia Wynter, who writes a lot about, her work explores the idea of the human, right? And she tries to reimagine the human, an idea of the human that is kind of extricated from colonial, hierarchical ideas, right, of humanity. And her work is cited often with Afrofuturist writers who are thinking of the non-human, right, or redefining the human, or post-humanity. In this passage, she's describing the importance of cosmogonies or origin narratives. And she's basically just asking a set of questions about the way that origin narratives influence our present and our idea of what is possible in the present.
And the music for this particular reading is by a composer and saxophonist, multi-woodwind instrumentalist named Shabaka. And this is, he's a Brit, yeah, okay, all right. All right, some folks are up on the, yeah, for sure. So Shabaka, British jazz musician, composer, band leader. This particular band is called Shabaka and the Ancestors. He formerly led a group called Sons of Kemet. And also, The Comet is Coming as well. Certainly a saxophonist and woodwind player who is known for exploring kind of the outer limits of what sound is and what traditional approaches to Black American music and improvised music is in general. Last year, he took a hiatus from playing saxophone he was burnt out after, years of being on the road and touring. And one of the things that led him to do was spend more time focusing on the clarinet and playing the flute and other instruments. And this latest project that he released, which was just released a little bit earlier this year, called Perceive Its Beauty, Acknowledge Its Grace, is really a mixture of jazz and many different types of sort of ethereal music styles, bringing comparisons to folks like the great Don Cherry and Alice Coltrane, among others. And so this is Insecurities from the album Perceive Its Beauty, Acknowledge Its Grace.
So the question is, what are the mechanisms? What are the technologies? What are the strategies by which we prescribe our own roles? What is common to all are cosmogonies and origin narratives. The representations of origin which we ourselves invent. Representations of origin which we ourselves invent are then retroactively projected onto an imagined past. Why so? Because each such projection is the shared storytelling origin out of which we are initiatedly reborn. Okay, so this last piece I'm reading is from M Archive by Alexis Pauline Gumbs. It's a blend of genres. I guess you could say it's a blend of fiction and poetry, and it's organized by periodic elements. The book is a history of a post-liberatory future, so you could think of it as a kind of a history of tomorrow's tomorrow, if we're using Sun Ra's lexicon, or an alternative origin narrative, right, or origin story for a different kind of future. And I'll be reading fragments from the Archive of Sky chapter.
And fittingly, the music to go along with this reading and to close us out for tonight is a piece by the great composer and pianist and harpist Alice Coltrane. This is a composition entitled Journey into Satchitananda. And this is the fourth studio album from Alice Coltrane, released in 1971 on Impulse Records. And on this album is Pharoah Sanders, Cecil McBee, and Charlie Hayden, so two bassists on the record, drummer Rashid Ali. And this album really marks a transition in Alice Coltrane's writing and sort of her movement, and sparks this new journey that she would go on with the albums that would come after that. And a lot of this has to do with the idea of her sort of going through this phase of discovery in her own life. This particular song that we're going to play, it speaks to this idea of the Hindu Trinity and sort of the dissolver of creation. Another piece on the record was created after a 5-week stay that she had in India and Sri Lanka. She often references her Middle Eastern and North African music and cultural influences. And really, this piece is a very sort of meditative journey, right? It's part blues, it's part kind of, ethereal mantra. It really speaks to this idea of the artists that would come after Alice Coltrane, folks like Radiohead and Flying Lotus, right? And the album, there's a really great quote that talks about how this, a reviewer talked about this record, saying it pays full tribute to the transformation that Alice Coltrane goes through in the 1960s, and really talking about her being an individual as a human being and as an artist, right? And the texture of the journey and how the journey is defined by transition and process and flow. And that's what this music has been about all tonight. It's what the readings have been about. So much of what we think about when we think about Afrofuturist ideology and philosophy is that idea of transformation, being informed by the past and the present, and thinking about a future that is completely wide open in so many ways. And it's part of the way that we sculpted the music tonight. Like, all of the music you've heard tonight has been based on small snippets of these pieces that we have then on the stage tonight completely created in the moment. So just to let you a little bit behind the curtain on what we're doing up here tonight. So we thank you for joining us, and we're going to close it out with a little bit of Alice Coltrane.
wasn't like they lined up in rows and found each other at dawn. It was too late for all that. The front was scattered, almost metaphorical, which is to say the front was at the back of its implications, so that was the target. It would have been easier to hear the preparations than to see them, or better to read if you could read, meaning if you could read the coded language of the air. The energy was shifting. What meaning meant was meaningless. There were so many languages inside each language, such different meanings for each word, that the dialogical break was inevitable. She had predicted this, even intended this, so she taught us to prepare for the incomprehensible in the best way she knew how, the poems. Remember when they did all those movies about zombies, but they didn't include an Afro-Caribbean cosmology of death and servitude, and the people watched it nightly, alone or together with their slick popcorn, or pretending to be together through interconnected video games with surround sound machine gun noises? When it happened, it was not like that at all, and not only because there was still no white savior. After it happened, it was hard to remember how we had walked on this land and breathed this air before without the thickness of knowing. They had always been here, every indigenous community massacred, every single prophet assassinated, every child sacrificed to colonialism, every slave rebel shackled in their grave, every unassigned body piled as refuse somewhere had never disappeared. Whatever part they burned into air, whatever part they buried underground, whatever part they threw in the sea came whole again, in every breathing, growing thing. And when the warning time came, they were all of them, screaming. Most of us got there naked, burnt raw, with rashes, scarred. We had put down everything that didn't hold blood, and some parts of us that did. We had brushed against the jagged histories that forced us to travel our different ways out. Television had taught us that teleportation would be all lights and a man in a unitard with a booth, that we would arrive wearing the same thing, with our organs and facial expressions intact, maybe one day. Our teleportation was slow and it completely rearranged us. We never put ourselves back together the same way again. It was a daily practice, slowly changing our sound from the inside, chanting and singing and listening deeper, moving in response to older harmonies than the reactive ones around. Do you know how long it takes to train hairs that would stand on end at any touch to become pores open with Thanksgiving? It is slower than the speed of light, but takes at least one candle every day. Once upon a time, the core of the earth made a magma solid, built crust around itself, where dreams could safely plant and grow. We are of that lineage. But in addition to the everyday for each of us, there was the one day we decided or found out in its midst that we were ready to drop every form of armor and be as vulnerable as the first teleportation, the day we were born. We believed our lungs could breathe a totally different substance. We believed our muscles would adapt to whatever measure of gravity or salt we faced. We believed that even if we were wrong in our beliefs, we were right to believe them. It was the only thing to do. And now we are here, as who we are, ready to scream again.
We'll see you again next week.
I wanna take you home. I won't do you no harm, no. Got to be all mine, foxy lady.
Hey everyone, Terrence Blanchard here. Thanks for watching and for your support of SFJAZZ at Home. We hope you enjoyed the concert, and there's a lot more to watch right here, in addition to dozens more concerts available on demand. We've got a great Fridays live streaming schedule coming up. Most of these live streams will be added to the on-demand library within a week. We also have a bunch of new video series to check out. Drop the Needle, where we test the musical knowledge of artists with classic vinyl records. In My Mind, where you enter the mind of an artist while they improvise. The Breakdown, where artists break down a musical concept at 3 levels of difficulty. And Family Matinees, where the Bay Area's best musicians give kid-friendly concerts with a Q&A. Last note, if you dig the SFJAZZ at home experience, tell your people. Our mission is to bring this music to as many folks as possible all around the world. Again, thanks for your support, and stay tuned.